What's up YouTube, Dal here from for War Games, and today, as requested, I'm going to bring you a test hand combo video for the branded Bystial build that I showed you guys the other day. Now, like I mentioned before, this build is incredibly powerful at managing its own resources. It's also very, very good in order to kind of deal with the Yugioh tier matchup, because obviously the Bystials can deal with the Yugioh and the tier cards, and then it can get some benefits from being milled if you mill the correct cards. So obviously with the Yugioh tier you can't control a lot. It is also going to be quite luck based with what gets milled and then what you end up milling, but the deck itself is still very, very powerful and can do a huge amount. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. After a very decent shuffle and a good old cut, our first open hand of 5 will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, well, I mean, the Allure Tragedy combo is absolutely busted already. We've obviously got a Magnamute and we've got the Comedy, which kind of helps us protect from targeting. I had this discussion with someone yesterday. It is down to personal preference. You can take it out. Like, it's to kind of deal with stuff like Imperms, Veilers, Sulliacs, stuff like that. If you don't feel that they're being run at your local environment or you're not worried about it, then you can cut them out completely. So with this, I would start off with Allure of Darkness. Obviously, draw 2. Broken, and then banish the Tragedy. Now, I'm obviously going to trigger the Tragedy effect, and I'm going to search out an Aluba. So that's my normal summon sorted. Now, again, a lot of people kind of question the theatre. I still think it's really good because I feel that unless your opponent knows exactly what it does and they start to play around it, some players will forget what it does. So when they destroy like an Aluba or something, you'll be able to trigger the effect to bring back a fusion. It just allows you to regain more resource. It does also give you that option, should your opponent stop your branded fusion, that you're then still able to conduct a fusion summon of some sort. The other one that was questioned was the Fenrir. Now, yes, the Fenrir itself doesn't add anything to the deck in the sense of it doesn't complement the Bystials, the Despirs, or the branded in like fusion plays or anything like that. But just on his own is just generally an incredibly powerful card. Because what you do is you go special summon Fenrir, not an activated effect, to summon it. So it's just, it will always hit the board. Use this effect to then trigger. This will then let you search out another copy of itself. Now, you could be a little bit spicy and you could go Unicorn over Fenrir if you're trying to keep stuff a little bit cheaper. And the reason you would do that is that you would actually then be able to banish during your turn. So what I mean by that, for example, is if my opponent was to activate Ash, when I activate Aluba or something along those lines, I won't be able to trigger Fenrir because there's nothing my opponent controls to banish. However, if my opponent was to trigger something and I had Unicorn, then Unicorn would then allow me to look at my opponent's deck and banish it. So, you know, it's gives and takes. Either way, I've searched out a second copy of itself, so the worst case scenario, if my board gets completely nuked, I can summon another one down and go from there. Then obviously what you want to do here is you want to conduct your normal summon. So you're going to normal summon your Aluba, trigger its effect, and of course there is only one card you're going to go for, and that is going to be the Branded Fusion. Now, with the Branded Fusion, you have 2 routes of play for this one. You can go route number 1, which is the Lubellion play, which is where you send Fawn of Albaz plus Lubellion, and that will allow you to get your branded beast and everything else. Or if you're going first, you can actually go for the Expulsion Lock, which is kind of something that I would more advise going for, because unless the deck, like if you're worried about stuff like Evenlies, if you're worried stuff about Dark Rulers, yes, Dark Rulers will still do the job, but it still locks your opponent down. It can cause a lot of issues for your opponent. Obviously, it's kind of give and take. If you think your opponent's got droplets, then you would go with, I would personally go for the Bystial play. If you don't think they've got droplets, then you'd go for the Incursion play. So activate Branded Fusion using the effect. This will then allow us to send Fawn of Albaz. There we go, from deck to grave. And then, like I said, I'll show you both routes actually, so you can kind of see as I may or may not show you them in the future. So route 1, you send Ra's Disciple. You bring out your Albion. You'll get more advantage going the Bystial route, but you just get more control going the Ra route. So what you do is you bring out your Lubellion, your Albion. Your Albion's effect will then trigger. And then what you could do, because you've got cards in your hand you don't mind discarding, is you could actually banish your Aluba plus your Fallen of Albaz. And this will then give you your Lubellion. So let's show you that, for example. So we'd banish this, banish this, banish this. Then you trigger your Lubellion's effect. You would discard a card, and obviously you've got plenty to discard. Your second Fenrir if you want to, your Comedy, entirely up to you. So you would discard the Comedy, you'd spin back your Albaz, put that back to the bottom of the deck, and then spin back your Lubellion. And this would then summon out the Mirror Jade. Now, obviously, in this route of play, you still need to get to your branded incursion, so you would then need to trigger the Mirror Jade effect, and then you'd probably end up banishing your Fenrir or something like that. Otherwise, you do also have the Magnamute in the hand to continue your plays that way. Now, by doing so, what you're trying to do is you're trying to get this off the board in order to get you to your recursion, which is still very easily doable. So it's not really the end of the world going down that route. You still also have the ability, because we've got Theatre in this hand, is you could activate the Theatre, use the Theatre's effect to fuse. You can fuse the Albion and your Adlerbyton. Adlerbyton can then trigger to summon one back. It really depends on where you want to go with this one. Let's go for a Masquerade. There we go. Obviously, your Albion effect will then be aimed to trigger in the end phase, so you don't want to be bringing it back. But you can bring back Adlerbyton. Sorry, not Adlerbyton. You can bring back Tragedy, so if it leaves the field during the next turn. Like, you just got more plays to make, is what I'm trying to say here. So, let's say we just leave it like that. Let's say we don't use Adlerbyton's effect. It doesn't really make too much of a difference. Magnamut can come down to search. You've still got plays to make, is what I'm trying to say here. Ultimately, what you do is you get to the end phase, you'd use your Albion's effect. Albion's effect would then set your Expulsion, and then you'd pass your turn. Now, obviously, during your opponent's draw phase, you'd activate Expulsion, you'd target your Ra's Disciple and your Aluba. Obviously, if you're worried about DD Crow or a Bystial, then you'd probably want to make sure you try and banish this through a fusion play in some form or another, and then your opponent can't deal with it at all. So you'd bring back your Aluba, you'd give the Ra's Disciple to your opponent. Your Aluba would then search you out a branded fusion for your follow-up of the turn, and then your opponent cannot tribute summon unless it's for a Ra, Obelisk, or Slifer, and they can't special summon. So they can normal summon, they could probably kill your Aluba, but you don't really care. You've then got a Mirror Jade, so even if they Dark Ruler you, they're still taking 600. You've got a Mirror Jade, you're protected from evenly and imperms because they can't then activate it with this, so they'd have to imperm early. You've still got your banish off your Fenrir as well. And then, like I said, if you summoned Magnamute the last turn, you would already have a follow-up. If you didn't, you've got it in your hand, and you've also got the Fenrir should they clear. So that's the Ra lock. I'm going to take this back to the branded fusion play. So let me just reset this slightly and show you how it will differ with what you've got. So branded fusion's back there, Albion's back in there. Comedy and Adlerbyton are back in the hand. So you activate the branded fusion. You would send, this time, your Bystial Lubellion, and you would send your Fallen of Albaz. So this is probably like the stronger one to get a better board presence and more control for something like a Dark Ruler. But at the end of the day, if you're locking your opponent out and they can't play, you know, so it's quite simply comes down to, if your opponent has droplets, go this route. If they don't, go the other route. Or go in second, go this route. So go into your Albion. Obviously, you trigger the Albion effect. And again, this one you can do whatever you want, but you want to be going for a Lubellion. So you've got that extra dragon to get rid of with your Bystial. So you go these two into Lubellion. There you go. Lubellion's effect will then trigger. So you discard any card in your hand. So obviously we'll discard Comedy. That will then allow him to trigger his effect, so you can put back your Fallen of Albaz. You can put back one of these if you want to get into a Mirror Jade. That is the ideal scenario. And the one that I would be putting back is your Lubellion. It gives you your Mirror Jade. Albaz goes back to the deck. And then what you do get, which is what I really like about this, is you can then use Lubellion's effect, tributing off as cost to summon himself back. Probably put him in defense. Probably should have put Fenrir in defense as well. You've then got the guaranteed effect of Albion in the end phase. You're then going to activate the effect of the Lubellion. This will then let you set. Now you can go for branded regained which will give you some draw power if you're able to banish, which, because we've got the Magnamute, technically we could. But I'm not going to guarantee that I've got the Magnamute or the Regained or anything like that. So that the first one I would go for, if I didn't have anything that will trigger the Regained or anything along those lines, is the Beast. Just because that gives you an out and out to any like back row, Mystic Mine, anything like that. Obviously, on top of that as well, you will get the ability of the Albion. And that's where, again, you can kind of get a little bit more off the top. So, again, if you wanted to go for Regained instead of Beast, you would then get a double draw because you'd be able to, well, again, hindsight with what you've got, Magnamute and everything else. Because you've got the comedy, because you've got everything else, I would probably go end phase Albion and get yourself a Branded in red. Like, you've just got a super strong Chimera coming. And this is without overextending, like literally at the base minimum, even if you took the Fenrir away and you just did the Branded Fusion play, this is what you would expect to get, which I think is crazy strong, because you've got a pop with the Branded Beast, because you can get rid of the Lubellion. You'd then have the Branded in red to let you target, bring back whatever you've discarded, so ideally a Despia or a Fallen of Albaz, and then this will allow you to kind of continue to make your combo as well. So. And that's just a very basic line. Obviously, that wasn't a full test hand in theory, because I could have gone so much further. Obviously, we had Adler Byton, we had Recursion play, we had Recovery, we had absolutely everything we needed with that hand. But I just wanted to show you the two routes, I suppose, more importantly, of what Branded Fusion can offer in this deck, whether you're going first for a full board lockout, or whether you're going second, or even first with a back row Lubellion pop control or draw. So now we're going to shove this up. Well, I now will do a full-on test hand so you can see exactly what we've got as well, and go from there. So we'll go first again, and I'll show you where we can end up. So our next one will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, this is another interesting one. So we've still got combo, which is absolutely fine, because obviously Foolish Burial will help us unlock that. And then, of course, they will then continue to be able to unlock because of both of these as well. So we're going to activate Foolish Burial. This one, I'm going to be sending Tragedy. I mean, the other way you could do it as well, if you wanted to, is you could send Merry Carrier. This is obviously the unknown route, but you'd send Merry Carrier. You'd then banish Merry Carrier for one of these. Trigger the Merry Carrier effect to search you out the Albion Dragon. Albion Dragon will then send the Branded Sword, summon itself, put itself to the bottom of the deck. You draw a random card. You would then be able to banish the sword to add this back to the hand. The issue is, it doesn't guarantee you anything. So like literally it'd be the luck of the draw. Whereas going this route with Tragedy, because it's such a busted card, would guarantee you. So Tragedy effect, get you into a Luba. I feel that most players will wait to, if they've got an Ash, they will Ash your Branded Fusion. It's just sad, it's the way it is, unfortunately. But yeah. We've still got a lot of plays to make. Don't know why I'm shuffling, because you can activate the Regained. Now, obviously, the only thing you're going to get off the Regained will be a draw, because it won't trigger until your opponent summons something. Now, obviously, if your opponent has a Bystial, they could then banish your own Tragedy, which would suck, and go from there, because sadly, these aren't quick effects. But you could control that now, because your opponent doesn't have a monster. These won't be quick effects, but you will be able to, and then theirs would become quick effects. So it's kind of, you know, if, buts, and maybes. So you normal summon the Aluba. Aluba's effect will then trigger to search out your Branded Fusion, because that card is bonkers. There we go. And now you're going to be able to activate your Branded Fusion. This will then send... I'm going to go for the Lubellion route, I think. So obviously, if I'm going first, I'd probably more so go for the Raz Disciple lock. I just think it's just more... It's just so much stronger. So much stronger. Because it will lock them out. It just completely stops them. But yeah, that kind of comes down to, you know, personal preference. Because I didn't show the Lubellion one properly in the last one, I'll do it again. So you go for your Albion, you trigger Albion's effect. This will then allow you to banish. So you want to be banishing your Fallen of Albaz. You can banish your Tragedy if you want to, but I quite like the idea of leaving it in there, because then during my opponent's turn, I can banish it with one of these guys and trigger an effect off, which would be really cool. And then, of course, you're going to banish the Aluba. This will then go into Lubellion. You've then got a Chain Link, guys. So you've got Chain Link once. You will need to discard one as cost. Personally, just because I want to use both of these, I'm going to discard the Ash. and you will get a draw off of the regained because you've banished the light and dark monster. So you draw off the regained, okay, and then you'd fuse with the Lubellion. So Lubellion will put back Albaz, and then if you're going for Mirror Jade, you put back himself, and then you get out your Mirror Jade. We've still got additional plays off this one, which is insane. We'll deal with that in a minute. We are then going to deck Fin, so we'll go Lubellion, send your Albion. Albion's effect will then be able to trigger in the end phase. You summoned out your Albion. You're going to use Albion's effect here. Lubellion's effect here. This one's going to get you your Beast. So now you've got the best of both. So you've got a draw play, you've got a summon play, and of course you've got a pop play as well. There you go, shuffle that up. I don't know why decks could use this as well. We can then use Albion's effect and let you send a branded spell or trap from deck to grave. Now, a lot of people play Retribution, which I completely understand, because it will let you regain the branded fusion for the next turn. So that's where I would agree with that one. The sword isn't going to be so great in this one because there's not really anything I can kind of bring back one. This one will let you target a continuous branded, which is really annoying because the only other one that I would honestly go for would be branded Lost. Because that's the only one you're going to get a benefit from. So let's go with the branded Lost, which I still think is pretty cool. So we're going to shuffle this up. The Albion will go back to the bottom of the deck and we'll draw one. Oh, a law, broken. Because then in the end phase we can bring back the branded Lost, which is still a cool little interaction. I've still got Magnamute, which can search me. I've still got Surinor that can send me. Like, I've got loads of plays here, but at the moment I don't really need them to be hitting the board. Like, the Magnamute is probably the best thing to hit the board just because it will give me a search for a Druid Worm. But if I hold these back, I've got a Tragedy that I can banish and then get a follow-up for the next turn. So we'll activate Allura Darkness, we might as well. Draw two, branded opening, and Alabiton. Woo, that's interesting. Okay. As much as I really want to use the Sorinir, because like the send is really good, but I need to get him off the field when I do that, which I can do with the Beast. But I kind of want the Druid Worm more, so we'll banish that. Got a nice branded opening, which is pretty cool as well, actually. Let's move this on. So we're going to set these. Now, I think to gain maximum advantage, you can either... I mean, the only target we've got is the Tragedy, and I actually think that would be a waste to banish the Tragedy off of the Magnamute. Yes, it would give me the Druid Worm, but honestly, I'd probably rather wait. At least I can then have a follow-up the next turn. Plus, in the end phase, I'm going to get branded in red. So I'm going to pass the turn. In the end phase, you'll trigger or resolve the Albion effect. You can go for any of the branded cards you want. I'm going to go for branded in red. There we go, put that one there. And we'll shuffle this up. Now again, the front row isn't as intimidating. But we've got a lot of recursion plays going on, which is what makes this deck so good. So then during our opponent's turn, we're going to let this one play out. We've got a couple of options. So we've still got Mirror Jade's effect is active and live on board. We've still got Branded Beast, which can pop this, send it to the graveyard. We've got this, that if we banish anything through Magnamute, which we will do, we'll get to draw a card. And the card that we will banish, unless we want to interrupt our opponent, the card that we can banish would be the Tragedy, which will then let us have a follow-up. On top of that, if our opponent normal or specials a monster, we can target a Bystial monster in the graveyard and special summon it. So what you kind of want to do is you kind of want to be able to go, okay, first thing I do is activate Branded Beast, let's put Lubellion in the graveyard. I've now got my target in the graveyard ready to go. Obviously, the other way of doing it is summon down the Magnamute and then do the exact same thing. So it's entirely up to you. So if we do it that way, we've already used Beast, so I'm just going to use these so I can confirm that we've already used it. And then what you want to do here is you'll then get the ability of activating Magnamute. Magnamute will then banish Tragedy. So we'll target Tragedy and then banish it on resolution. You'll then be able to go chaining 1 Magnamute, chaining 2 Tragedy, or 1 Tragedy, 2 Magnamute. You've also got 3 of Regained as well because you've banished, but that will then allow you to go, okay, cool, 3, so we'll draw. 2, we'll get a search, which we're going to go for a Luba, so we've got our normal summon follow up the next turn. And then 1 will obviously resolve to say that you can search in the end phase. So that's that one done. If your opponent normal or special summons a monster, regained, bring back Lubellion. You've now got a nice 3k defender on the board. You've then also got the ability to activate Mirror Jade. So you send an Albion, or you can send an Albalonatus. It doesn't really make much of a difference which one. So we've now used this. So you can see that we've only used 3 cards. The draw of Merry Carrier is busted because we've now got another form of interruption. Off the back of that as well, we've still got Branded in red. So we go, okay, activate Branded in red. We'll fuse... actually, did I leave a target in the graveyard? Whoops! I didn't leave a target in the graveyard. Branded in red. That was silly, Dale. That's fine, actually, because we can then activate Branded Opening. We can send Adlerbyton. There you go. Even more free real estate if you ever wanted it. Aluba. So we've already used this. Aluba's effect. Get me a follow-up. Just give me a guaranteed follow-up of Branded Fusion. Then activate Branded in red. Target the Adlerbyton. Fuse Adlerbyton, Mirror Jade, and the Aluba, because we've already used those. They will get banished. I'll do that in a sec. Going to Guardian Chimera. Chainlink 1 Chimera, Chainlink 2 Adlerbyton, bring back Mirror Jade. So Mirror Jade is now back online. Chimera, pop 2, draw 1. Cool. That's gone. And then we still got Mirror Jade, so you can then Mirror Jade again. This one I'd probably send our Lubellion because there's no real additional advantage from that. So there we go. So we've used that. And then, so you've been able to banish 2 off of this, pop 1 off of this. You've drawn off of this and revived off of this. You've banished another one of your own cards, or you can banish one of your opponent's ones there. You've popped 2 additional cards there. You've still got an Ash, you've still got a Merry Carrier. Like, your opponent does not play through that. Even with an Evenly, with the Evenly, you still have the ability to kind of maintain, because you'll still have your Branded in red. You'd still hold back your Magnamute. Yeah, it's still very, very good. And, you know, there's not really a lot to worry about on that. And then you just survive this, you just go... So, yeah, nice and easy, kind of finish the game off there. It is crazy what the Bystials can add, and like, it's through playing this deck with the Bystials in that I went, because I was like, yeah, Bystials are cool, I don't want to go too hard on the Lubellions, because I didn't pull them, obviously. I was like, I'll trade into some of them, see what I can get. And then I played this deck, and I was like, holy crap, the Bystials are busted. Like, you know, when you know a card's broken, but until you actually play with it, like, so you're watching this Yugioh tier deck and you're like, oh, these mills are disgusting, what's going on, this deck's insane. And then, until you actually play it, it just takes it up another level. You're like, okay, it's not just hype, it is legit busted. Anyway, we'll now start going second, so we'll show you what the 6th card can do. The deck's really good at playing through multiple interruptions as well, which is where it kind of, it can rebuild its board state. It's something that I really liked about Salamangrates is they were so annoying in the fact that they just kept rebuilding their board. It was mental. Anyway, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So these are our first 5. Before I draw the 6th, I would 99.999% of the time guarantee I've already activated the Magnamute. So the reason I don't draw my 6th is because in the end phase I would be searching. Obviously I've already got the Lubellion, so we're going to search a Druid one, and then I've got a way of getting out. So the only like bad card in the hand is the Adlerbyton, and even then that's not that bad if I can get to a Branded in red, which I can do off the back of Aluba because I already have a Branded Fusion. And even if I don't, I can Allure of Darkness it away. So we'll shuffle that up. We've Magnamuted, so we've formed some form of disruption on our opponent, and we've got a nice 2400 beta. So draw 1. Wow! You just saw me shuffle, guys. Wow. Okay, that's busted. Sure. Okay, so we've got so much here before we even need to activate Branded Fusion. It's crazy. So we're gonna activate Lubellion. This, like, to be fair, this could literally just be like a branded, a Bystial Turbo. You could go for a Magnamute, which will give me an end-phase search, which was good for recursion. With Sorinir, you're going to be setting up your back row a little bit more, so it's entirely up to you which one you want to go for. I kind of want to get Druid Worm onto the board, so that's when it will get even spicier. So let's do this. I'm then going to, again, these are all the assumptions your opponent's got targets to use in their graveyard, If they don't, then obviously you'll need to change it up a little bit more. That's where Branded Fusion comes into play. That's where you need to fill more in. But what you'd want to do here, ideally, is you Druid Swarm, take one from your opponent's graveyard again, use Lubellion's effect, get rid of Druid Swarm, bring itself back. Druid Swarm's effect, send one of your opponent's monsters, so that's going to bait out one form of interruption that they need to try and stop. You've had 2 with the Magnum Move of the first one. You'll then use Lubellion's effect to activate one face up. Now, you can go aggression, which would be activating the beast face up, because then you can start popping this stuff. And then that's where Soronir would come into play, because that's where Soronir would then set up your Branded Regained for the end phase as well. Oh yeah, I forgot to resolve the beast in the end phase of the last test hand. My bad. So we've got the Branded Beast, so if you wanted to be like full on aggression, and you're like, you know what, I don't care. So then you'd Soronir, banishing another one from your opponent's grave. Use Beast to get rid of this, which will then allow you to trigger its effect, a Foolish Burial. So you've popped a card, so there you go, that's another clearance out. We're going to send Branded Regained, because we'll be able to reset that off of Beast later on. We still haven't conducted a normal summon. We still haven't conducted our Branded Fusion play. We've still got a Law of Darkness. Not that we really need to do it right now, but we still have so much more to do. It's mental. Branded Fusion, Ash. Okay, I'll still play. So activate Branded Fusion. On this one, again, you can go as aggressive as you possibly want to. So for me, to be honest, you could go Tragedy, which would then leave you with a search. You can discard the Adler-Biten, which will trigger into the Branded in red. Like, you have plays to make there. The other option is that you can also send a second Lubellion, and the reason you'd do that is that you would go through, you'd go into Albion, and you just get another dragon on the board for an additional attack. But to be honest, I don't think I need it, so we'll go with these two. Lubellion. Put it in defense because it's not going to be able to attack anyway. You go chain it 1 Lubellion, chain it 2 Tragedy, Lubellion, discard as cost. We will get rid of, you know, I mean, it doesn't really make too much of a difference. We can bring that back anyway. Adler-Biten, we will resolve Tragedy, searching ourselves out our normal summon of Aluba, which again you really don't need because you've already got your Branded Fusion, but he will be able to set you up some other plays, which is really nice. That's then going to allow us to trigger Lubellion, and we'll put back. Where are we? Let's put back the Druid Swarm, and let's put back. I mean, we could get really aggressive about Mirror Jade, but I suppose that'd be silly. So put that back, put Lubellion back. We'll put Mirror Jade. We'll put Mirror Jade in the extra monster zone because, to be honest, I'm going to try and fill up my board. Don't know how far I'll get with that, but we're going to give it a go. There you go. Druid Swarm can stay in the graveyard. Then normal summon your Aluba. Aluba's effect will then trigger. Now you've got your Branded in red. You don't really want a Branded opening. You can, if you want to, go for, because we're going aggression, you'd go for your Branded Fusion, not Branded Fusion, Branded Lost. But you could also go for your Despia Theatre, and the reason you would do that is that you'd then upgrade, you could upgrade some of these. I'm going to go for the Branded Lost because I'm going to try and gain even more resource off the back of this, which is absolutely ridiculous. So let's use Mirror Jade's effect. So let's get rid of another card. We'll send an Albion. So we've got a guarantee that that's going to trigger in the end phase. Again, not that I should need it. I should be able to OTK this. You're then going to, you can go to the battle phase, and then that will obviously give you the Branded in red active. So go battle phase. Or you can hold it back if you want to go further with the Branded Lost. So let's say we want to go further with the Branded Lost. We'll activate the Branded in red. We're going to target the Adler-Biten. We're going to fuse these two and the Adler-Biten. They obviously all get banished. That will then summon out your Chimera. Now I would advise if your opponent's got back row, you deal with your back row through the Chimera rather than the front row, because obviously he can't attack directly because he was made with Branded in red. But regardless, your opponent cannot respond because you've got Branded Lost, so you'd go chaining 1 this, chaining 2 Adler-Biten, chaining 3 Branded Lost. Branded Lost would then search you. Now again, you've got 2 options here. You can search out the protection of Merry Carrier should your opponent have anything else, but I would like to think that by this point they won't. The other option is your Albion, and this will just give you a free draw with a slight bit of recursion. Entirely up to you. So you then resolve everything, bring back Mirror Jade. Mirror Jade's effect is now live again. You've still got to resolve the Chimera, so pop 2, draw 1. Okay, cool, we've got follow up. I I mean, I could get even more aggressive if I really, really want to. So let's say we go ultra aggressive, go Mirror Jade, send another one. There you go. That's 5 forms of removal, or 4 forms of removal. Graveyard zones as well. And then because we've got the Branded Fusion, why not send it from the hand to let us summon down. Let's summon down this one. Obviously, I can go for a draw if I want to, but I'm going for the attack on this one. And you just go ham. Go absolutely ham. So attack, attack. As long as this makes the first attack on a monster, if they've got no monsters left on the board, I mean, this is already game there. So it's insane, absolutely insane. Yes, I know a lot of you in the comments will be like, yeah, but I could stop that with a Nibiru, or I could stop that with this. You could, but you would still leave me with recursion. Like if I wanted to, I'd go to the battle phase, and that's where Branded in Red comes in. Because I could then steal Chimera, I would still have a Nibiru token, I would then also still be able to deal with your monster as well by popping it or killing it. So, you know, it's not the end of the world by far from that. Okay, so each test stand's taking about 10 minutes. I will try and, like, I don't know, chapter these out so you can see. I think the first one was just so in depth, it's crazy. Anyway, let's do our last test stand, go in second, and after a very decent shuffle, and a good old cut. Our final test stand of 5 will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. Now, chances are I probably would have already used the Astra in my opponent's turn because it's rare that they'll probably have anything that I want to save it for during my turn, but it obviously doesn't change the order of the deck. Then what you want to do is you always try and do this during the draw phase because it plays around stuff like Vader's. It also plays around stuff like Draw and Lockbird as well. Is you activate your Branded Opening. Now it's entirely up to you on what you want to discard this. I would personally, I mean, I'm going to be getting an Aluba anyway. So if someone of an Aluba doesn't really do much for me. So discard the Aluba, resolve this. Only downside is the Aluba goes into defense, but it's not a big issue. Aluba's effect, search me out a Branded Fusion. Obviously the idea is if your opponent's like, I'm going to hold back at Ash for your Branded Fusion, you go, okay. Now, this is something that I've always really considered is they know you've got a Branded Fusion. So, do you hold back your knowledge of these 3 cards? So, what I mean by that is, do I activate the Lubellion now? And my opponent goes, okay, he's got that and Branded Fusion. So they now need to make the decision of what to stop. Or do you go, they know I've got Branded Fusion, they're probably going to negate it, they don't want that hitting the board. I'm going to activate Branded Fusion, and they're probably going to go, stop it. And you go, okay. And then you just go full Bystial combos. So, you know, you've got the best of both on this one. We'll activate Branded Fusion, so we'll keep the knowledge of Lubellion hidden. Again, it's either or. It really is down to you on how you want to do this. Now, again, it's up to you. The Tragedy would only really give me an Adlerbitum, which at the moment, without a Branded in Red, isn't going to do me too much. So, the next best option you've got, if you wanted to discard, is you actually send the Merry Carrier, because it's a dark. You can then banish it with the monster you search off of your Lubellion, and then trigger its effect to search, which is really kind of cool. The other option is you send the second Lubellion, and then they start to worry about that Lubellion in the graveyard. Now, another way of doing it is you could send the Ra's Disciple because it's just a bit of a brick in the deck. It really comes down to, you know, how you want to play this. And if you want to discard now or later in the combo. I mean, you'll get a bit more advantage if you go for a light one because you'll get the Albion. The Albion can then summon the Lubellion. You then get a Albion plus a Mirror Jade. So it's really up to you. So we'll go with the Albion in this one. Albion's effect will then trigger. And we will banish 2 darks. So we'll banish the Albion in the graveyard and our Albaz. There we go. This is then going to go into Lubellion. Now Lubellion's effect. Now the issue is at this point you would like to think that if they had a Imperm, if they had a Veiler, well more so the Veiler or any hand trap that you would call by the grave, they would have already used it. Now unless you're playing up against Sprite Elf, and they're going to try and bring one back from the graveyard, or they're going to try and mill something, you could arguably get rid of the Call by the Grave. I mean, it's risky, but you could arguably get rid of it, because then you've still got Theatre that will let you continue your plays as well. So we'll get rid of the Call by the Grave, we'll spin 2 back. Now obviously we're going to spin back these 2 right here. Not these 2, right? Well, I mean, you could do. You could go like full aggression. I'm going to go full aggression. We're not going to go We don't need to go Mirror Jade. I mean, you probably should, but let's go. I mean, you can go into the Quinteris. Quinteris would be pretty funny because Quinteris can negate an effect. You could also, if you wanted to, because you've got the second Lubellion, is you could spin this Lubellion back with those two monsters and go into a Proskinian, which would be really funny. So it's entirely up to you and where you want to go. Because I'm going aggression, you know what? Just because, for its and lols, let's go for the Proskinian. This is not the ideal way of doing it, guys. This is not like mass advantage. This is just something quite funny that you can do, which I like. You can then go for the Bystial Lubellion. This one will then let you search out your Magnamort. Or a Druid one, really. Yeah, alright, we've been going aggression already. Screw it, let's go full on aggression. Let's go for the Druid one, which is actually really important because then I can fuse off later on as well. So it works out nicely. So then what you do here is you can then use your Lubellion effect. You send your Lubellion, funny enough, bring this one back. You can then use the effect here. Now again, it depends if you want to gain advantage, if you want to be aggressive, entirely up to you guys. If you wanted to gain advantage, you would get the branded spell, branded regained. If you wanted to be aggression, you'd go for beast. So the issue with going beast is you won't be able to make an additional fusion summon. With the regained, you'll get a free draw. So it's entirely up to you. Let's go with regained, just because I can. Again, like I've already mentioned, this is not like the most optimum way of doing it. This is the time is coming, all to the wall, kind of, I'm going for it. If I don't win this turn, then it's game over anyway. So then what you want to do here is you've then got like plenty to play for. Obviously we've not gone for the end phase effect of this or anything like that. If you wanted to, you save it and you activate this to fuse, just to guarantee that. But again, like I said, we are going full on aggression. So we'll go with the fact that our opponent doesn't have anything in the graveyard. So we'll use Druid's Worm, we'll banish the Lubellion. Because a card was banished, we'll regain and draw a card. Not much use to us right now. You then activate the Theatre. The Theatre will then let you fuse. So you'd use Druid Worm and you'd use Aluba. This can then go into Masquerade. I suppose is the better one because even if you can't OTK with this, you'll then still be able to cause issues later on. Druid Swarm will then send one of your opponent's monsters and then you go in for attack. So you've got 5,000 there. You've then got another, well, this is definitely game because you've then got 8,200 there and then you've got 10,800 if this all goes through directly. Also keep in mind as well that the Proskinian would actually give you the ability during the main phase to bring back a Fusion, Synchro, XYZ or Link monster in your opponent's graveyard. So that will then give you an additional attack if you needed it, depending on what you've cleared off with your Druid Swarm. So you know what, you've had so much play, it's crazy. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is pretty much it. Now, obviously, like I've mentioned throughout this last test stand, that was me going full-on aggression. Less worrying about what their board is, but it was just going all out to see where I could go. If I wanted to be a bit more reserved, obviously that's where you would probably go for Magnamu over Druid's Worm. You would go for Beast over the Regained. You would go for, you'd get the Albion to the graveyard. There's just so many different options you would go for there. But that was just to show you an aggression play because that's probably a little bit different to what you might usually be seeing. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. If you do have any questions at all, please put them in the comments down below. I will be more than happy to answer them for you. For all of that out of the way, guys, thank you so much for watching. As absolutely always, stay safe and, of course, happy dueling.